Thanksgiving there. It was pretty laid back. It was a good time. We made the most of it, but it's a good time to give the guys some time at home to kind of decompress as we're approaching, very, very quickly here. It seems like approaching the quarter point of this AHL season. A good chance for guys to kind of have a couple days here to rest up a little bit before a huge weekend.
Absolutely. I can hear it. I know I mentioned yesterday about all of us. It's every person attached to the show got sick this week. I'm telling you, everybody that does a segment, it had to have been that changing back and forth of the weather the way it did over the last week, because every person, yesterday I was laughing. Every text I got yesterday morning said, hey man, I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm not feeling good. I'll try not to cough. And I'm like, man, and I'm sick too. And I can hear it in your voice here now, man. We're all getting hit this week.
I'm on the recovery. It was actually yesterday I was better than I was the day before. I was struggling to finish watching Raw on Monday night. It was a battle. And then slept it off and got some more rest yesterday, and now here we are, just kind of getting rid of the late lingering effects. But I think I'll be all systems go definitely by the weekend. But yeah, definitely it's interesting. It's that time of the year, like you said. The last couple of weeks, I feel like I was around people with colds all the time, and I was just hoping that it wasn't going to hit me. And by golly, it did.
And you guys that don't know, but behind the scenes, if you've ever seen broadcasters, radio people especially, man, it's nothing but antibacterial soap, spray everything in the studios, microphones, everything down, because...
Oh, and then when you get sick, every kind of lozenge imaginable gets pulled out, because we've all tried them all, and everybody knows what works for them.
Hey, man, have you ever frozen lemon juice and sucked on the ice cubes before? And so everybody's got a solution or whatnot. But not only that, everybody gets sick, too, because...
I've got a bag of Ricola in my traveling radio bag, with the radio gear. There's always a bag of Ricola in there, because you never know when, you might be in the third game of 3-3, and you're getting a little coarse.
And you know, just like I do, you use your voice. Your voice is your living. So, and it worked out well for you this week with the Monsters not having games, because you were able to get the worst of it out of the way, and you should be good to go by the time you guys have the next game.
No, exactly. This is good behind-the-scenes chatter. We're opening up a world that a lot of people don't.
Hey, man, I already told them at the beginning of the show.
As we so often do. It's a deeper look.
That's right. I told him at the beginning of the show, I said, listen, man, today we're just happy we're on the air. We're not sticking but the rules. We're just having a show here. We're going to have some fun. It's a holiday edition of the show, and we'll talk some sports too. But yeah, I like to give them a little glimpse behind the curtain, a little Doug Plagens. All they know of you is that you're a robot who calls every single game. Bam, spot on. See, now they know the real struggles to being Doug Plagens.
You just buy a bag of cough drops and you're set.
There's that too, man. All right. Hey, let's talk about last weekend first. You had the double with Grand Rapids, and as I figure out how to talk without stuttering over myself, split those games there last weekend, 5-4. They took the victory on Friday, and then Saturday, 5-2, the loss. A tale of two different games there that weekend.
It really was. The first game, what's interesting is in each game, the Monsters trailed 3-1 after one. You and I have talked about how over the course of this season we've seen flashes of brilliance. And, with a young team that has a lot of promise and a lot of talent, you're going to see glimpses of the potential. You're also going to see maybe certain battles with inconsistency. And in each of those games, the Monsters trailed 3-1 after one. The difference between the two was Friday, the Monsters came up huge with 3 third-period goals. They scored. They ended up scoring 3 in the third after one very late in the second to kind of set the table and get the momentum on their side. That big third period carried them to a come-from-behind 5-4 victory. And then they went to Grand Rapids the next night, fell behind 3-1 after one, didn't get the same result, and still had the shots on net, still had chances, but again, things are in this division. Monsters and Grand Rapids are kind of battling back and forth to get back into that top 3, and it also shows how tough it is to beat a team back-to-back nights. You come from behind to beat a team the first night, it's awfully tough to come from behind and beat a team the second night when you spot them a lead like that, because that going into that second game, Grand Rapids players were probably challenged by their coaches. You can't let that happen again. Can't afford to lose 2 straight to this team. You can't give up points in your division. So then I'm sure the challenge was reissued when they went into the locker room with a 3-1 lead after one. Their coaches probably said, all right, you guys aren't out of the woods. This is what happened last night. And they ended up losing it when the Monsters came back on Friday. So Saturday, I'm sure, we saw a little bit of a different, more urgent Grand Rapids team, and they did a better job of holding on to their lead than they did on Friday night. Still a decent weekend to get a split, win the home game in front of a good crowd at Q. Everybody left happy, but at the same time, a split doesn't necessarily push you ahead in the standings, just kind of helps you from falling further at this point.
Yeah, I thought it showed, like you said, even looking at Friday, they come back to win the game, but just to come back in general, because, what was it, less than 20 seconds into the game that Grand Rapids hit that first goal?
Yeah, it was 19 seconds into the game. Grand Rapids took a lead here at the Q, and credit to the Monsters, and credit to the coaching staff, credit to the leadership on the ice, because these guys didn't waver at all. There wasn't any panic. It was a great effort by the team to come back in that game and get the 2 points, and get the 2 points in regulation on Friday night. I don't think, that's another one to go back and talk about. Friday night was a great display of what this team is capable of doing moving forward, because different guys, they were scoring. There were some nice goals scored over the weekend, especially in that, a couple of goals off deflections, goals from getting traffic to the front of the net. It doesn't always have to be a beauty contest, and we saw the Monsters do it a number of different ways in that game. And then, like I said, on Saturday, it was just a story of Grand Rapids lead than they did on Friday to get the split. So again, you split over the weekend. You don't lose anything when you split like that. But the Monsters obviously looking to get on a run here as soon as they can.
And we'll talk, they've got the 3 coming up here this weekend. We'll talk about that, talk about hitting the ground running, trying to get on a run. But last weekend, besides the slate of games, there was a couple of things here outside of the games involving the Monsters. Several players called up to the Avalanche as well. Calvin Pickard gets his first win up there with the Avalanche. Talk a bit about some of the Monsters in the NHL this past weekend.
Well, a couple things. I mean, it shows everybody, and this is something you and I also talk a lot about, but it shows everybody just how close these guys in the AHL are to the NHL. They're a phone call away. They're one injury in the NHL away from getting the call up from the AHL, and couldn't be happier for a guy like Calvin Pickard. I mean, he gets the call up, goes up there, gets his first win, and did it in relief. He was only the second player in Avalanche/Quebec Nordiques franchise history to get his first career win in relief. And then last night, actually earned an NHL distinction all time, because he had to come in relief again after Red O'Bara gave up 3 goals early, and the Avalanche wound up coming back and winning that game in overtime last night. So what ended up happening is Calvin Pickard became the first goaltender in National Hockey League history, which dates back to 1917, first goaltender in National Hockey League history to get his first 2 career wins in relief in back-to-back team games. So huge thing for him to get the call up, get a couple of wins like that, and really spark the Avalanche, who struggled in the early part of the season. Now the Avalanche are playing Chicago tonight out there in Denver, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets the nod.
Yeah, I read an interesting, after the first one, I didn't even know about the most recent one from the Denver Post. I don't know if you saw it, but they had a good article about that first victory, and I noticed that, how I'm like, wow, when you're up against it, you're up against it. Let's not just come in relief. Let's be down 3-1, and then, boom, do your job and help them with the comeback.
And people don't realize how tough it is to come in relief as a goaltender. I mean, this isn't like baseball where you get infinite warm-up pitches to get ready and get out there and face a batter that your manager decided that you're in the best situation to face because of statistics, and you're a lefty and he's a lefty or whatever. When you're a goaltender, it's, okay, that guy just got shelled. You need to get out there. There are no warm-up shots. You just have to get out there in the net and get the mask on, get ready to go, and see how things go. And it could be, it could be 5 minutes into the game. It could be 5 minutes left in the game. You don't know. And there's really, you just have to be ready to roll. You just have to be ready to get out there on the ice. And in that regard, it's similar to being a backup quarterback in the NFL when you're one hit away from finding yourself out there on the field. So you just have to make sure you're always tuned into the game.
I say it all the time. Some of us, we talk to each other so much here, and we get used to each other's thoughts. On the tip of my tongue is, well, it's just like a lot like being a backup quarterback. You might get 2 or 3 throws, and then bam, you're in there, and then you hit it first. See, we are truly simpatico here, man. And while we're mentioning that, even though he's sent back down, I saw Agazzino was up there, and Ben Street, a couple of other Monsters have made some trips early on this season to the Avalanche.
Yeah, Paul Carey's up there now. Ben Street's up there now, and he's had some NHL time before. Same thing with Thomas Vinsour. He's had some time in the NHL before. He's up there right now. But Andrew Agazzino got up there, played his first game, got sent back down, but had an assist in his one game played. It was his NHL debut. I talked to him yesterday about it, congratulated him on making his debut, and he told me, I mean, and basically what he said is you can think about it your whole life, what it's going to be like when you step onto the ice in the National Hockey League for the first time, but no matter how much you think about it, it's still nothing like when you actually do it. And he was still just like smiling ear to ear, just talking about the experience of playing in the National Hockey League. So it was awesome for him, and that's a guy who did it the hard way. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent, signed an AHL contract before the 12-13 season, had a good season with the Monsters, led the team in points. Before last year, got his National Hockey League contract, had a good showing in camp this year, played in the preseason, showed that he got to play, and that's a guy that I know he's got ties, he's got family in the Cleveland area, even though he's from the Greater Toronto area. He's a guy that a lot of fans here in Cleveland have had a chance to watch play or get to meet out at one of our events in the community. So he's a guy who's been climbing all the Monsters' all-time lists and charts and over the last couple of seasons, and again, a guy who got to the NHL and did it the hard way, not necessarily being the biggest guy out there, but not being a draft pick per se, but he worked his way up the ladder and showed that he can play at every level.
See, what is that? The theme of the show today? We get to talk about Colt McCoy. I say a lot of the same things about them there, man. It doesn't matter if it's meant to be, you'll make it happen. That's the best way you can put it, man. When you want it bad enough, you go out there and you put the work in. But it's not just that. A lot of people put the work in and things don't work out for them. It's great to see when they come together. When you got a guy who did what he had to do, earned his way there, and opportunity opened up. Because as we know, that's the key of the equation. It's when your preparation meets the opportunity, that's where the success comes.
Oh, exactly. And he's a guy, like you said, the tone was really set. His first game as a Monster, his first regular season game, was opening night, Friday night in October of 2012. And in the third period, he went down the ice and I remember it was a 2-on-1 with him and Patrick Bordeleau, who's now with the Colorado Avalanche. And the ice, and Agazzino was thinking shot all the way, and he just sent a wrister over the goalie's shoulder from the right circle, and ended up being the game winner and a 2-1 Monsters win. And it was really from that point forward, he's proven to be one of the most valuable players out there for this team the last couple of years.
No doubt. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rock sitting here hanging with my man Doug Plagens, the voice of the Lake Erie Monsters. And let's talk about coming up as we say moving forward. They'll get a chance to put on maybe a couple of pounds tomorrow, and they won't have them come Monday. That's for sure. Not that they got to worry about that anyway, but you've got 3 in 3 coming up this weekend. They get the first one, as we mentioned earlier, at home. You've got one of those home-and-home splits again here, as you've got Hamilton at the Q. Then you head up to Hamilton for Saturday and wrap it up staying up north with Toronto on Sunday.
Yeah, these are tough weekends, and the Monsters don't have as many 3 in 3s this year as they have in past years. Only 4 of them on this whole season, but this one's a big one. It comes at a big time. You look at it when this weekend is over with, the Monsters will have played 19 games, so they'll be able to say they're a quarter of the way through the season. It's generally when trends start to take place, you can kind of look at things, survey the standings, see where you are and what kind of work you need to do in the next 75% of the season. But Hamilton comes in. This is a rival of the Monsters going back the last few years, and they're no longer in the same division, but they're still going to see each other 6 times this season. And they're a team that's won 4 out of 5 games. So it's interesting that, you look at the last few Friday night games, the last few Dollar Dog and Soda nights here at the Q. A couple weeks ago, Adirondack came in, Grand Rapids came in on 3-game winners of 4 out of their last 5. So, it seems like the Monsters are running into teams when they're playing some very good hockey lately, and they're going to need to it's going to be a big game Friday, especially to set the tone for the whole weekend, because as we discussed with Grand Rapids last week, with Adirondack the week before, it's tough to beat teams 2 games in a row. So you want to come out and make sure that you make the most of game 1, especially with that being the home portion. And then